treacherous journey across the Pacific Ocean in this ship. Months later, they would arrive in Oaxaca, Mexico, then transported by train to Mérida, Yucatán, under a 4-year worker program. Some came to Mexico looking for new opportunities. Others were fleeing the Japanese-Russian invasion of Korea, but they could never imagine the sacrifices they would be forced to make thousands of miles away from home.
It was difficult because in the first place of the weather, the food, they were not familiar, and then they didn't know that it was so hard labor that they had to cut with a machete, and they have to cut the leaves, and it has a lot of thorns, very pointed like needles, so their hands would bleed.
Lili G. de Bañales talks about her grandparents living and suffering in a foreign country. Those who refused to work were jailed and sometimes beaten. Her grandmother was one of those laborers harvesting the eniquén, a cactus-like plant in southeastern Mexico. Fibers from the plant were used to make rope and other items. Lili's cousin, Pedro Díaz, remembers the early days.
They would go very early to the plantation. They would get up so early in the morning because the sun was so hot. They would only work until 10 in the morning.
8, 9 o 10 de la mañana, porque el cielo era muy fuerte.
Looking over pictures brings back memories of the life their grandparents once lived. Because of the language barrier, there were many adjustments to make.
They changed the names at the crossing the border, like the aduana customs, because they would say, what is your last name? And they would say, E. There is no such last name. So we all changed our names.
More than 30 years later, Lili's mother, Elvia, would be the first Korean to move north to Tijuana, opening a shoe store. Lili was the first Korean born there. Others would soon follow. Pedro still lives across the border.
Yo llegué a la edad de 14 años a la ciudad de Tijuana en el año 1944.
We lived in Quintana Roo and moved to Tijuana when I was 14 back in 1944. My parents moved here looking for new opportunities.
They continued to honor their heritage by preserving traditional costumes and photographs from that era. They also celebrated the centennial of the Korean migration to Mérida, Yucatán last year. Many Korean dignitaries attended to honor and remember those who made the voyage a century ago.
We didn't even expect to have our grandparents treated as heroes. They built a statue in honor of the Koreans. The president of the National Assembly in Korea came and donated $1 million to build a hospital in Mérida.
Keeping their history alive and staying connected, the community of Mexican Korean Americans honors their past with traditional Korean dishes at a family reunion in Chula Vista every year. 92-year-old Sabina Corona Kim was one of the first Koreans born in Mérida.
Muchos hacen esa pregunta porque me ven que soy oriental, ¿no? Es lógico.
Many ask that question, how do you know Spanish so well? Because we are Korean Mexicans, I was born in Mexico.
Estudié en México, le digo, por eso le digo.
What began as a worker program or a way of escaping the oppression in their native country turned into an odyssey for more than 1,000 Koreans. What's most important to these Mexican Korean Americans is preserving history so that the new generations will remember where they came from.
I'm very proud to have been born in Mexico background. I'm very proud to have been Korean. Now that we are here in the United States, I'm very proud that my children were born here in the United States.